Hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Victor Neustruev. Thank you for coming to our webinar today. Today we are going to talk about how to play beautiful chess or how to make your chess games more beautiful. So mainly we will devote our masterclass or webinar to the combinations because the combination is the most beautiful thing in chess. Well, in my opinion, if you have a different opinion, please share your thoughts. Okay, so people are joining. I started today a little earlier than usual. So guys, if you want to play the game with me on chess.com just to warm up, you're welcome. Tell me your username. If not, I'm gonna play against someone else. So yeah, that okay. So I'm sharing the screen. Now you can see my screen. So play. Okay, so and 3+2. Let's play just one game. Doesn't really matter against who I'm going to play. I just wanted to warm up. I didn't play Blitz for many years. So the guy from Serbia. Okay, fine. Okay, so bishop e3, c6. Well, I don't know how to play. I don't remember, to be honest. If it can be this move, but then knight g4. Okay, queen d2, queen e5. Oh, I completely forgot how to play in this position. Because a 4 knight g4 definitely. Knight e2 is playable here. What else? Bishop d3. Bishop d3 is a tempo loss, so let me play this move just. Knight d7. Okay, fine. And then I want to replace my knight with a tempo. So d5, b4, take, 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 and I lose the pawn here. Okay, so a3 then. a6, logical. So my opponent is about to play c5 move. So let's start. Well, I can do f4 actually. Can I? Knight g4. No, f4, e5. Take, take. Okay, looks fine. Because f3 seems to be very slow. I don't think knight g4 is a good move actually, because well, what happens if I chase it away just? Because if okay, so well, you're threatening with this move. I have knight a5 ideas, but the knight is the object of the attack there. Okay, fine. So let me first play h3. Knight f6. If I do this, if I do e5, knight comes there. And if I castle, it's knight c4. But knight c4. Okay, actually, let's do this. And if the knight goes there, I can go here. Takes. Okay. Right. But then my knight goes to c5. Yeah, I think it goes to c5. So ideally, I can replace it and try to attack. Okay, so this is hanging. Then g3. Castle queenside. Okay, take it. Just so if I take pawn takes, queen takes, it works in my opinion because there is no bishop b7, right? If I'm not missing anything, rook b8. Yeah, rook b8 does make sense, but again, I don't think it fully works. I can capture here. Queen e5 then. Queen e5 probably. Right. Bishop d4. Bishop d4 is a very nice idea. So what should I do then? Okay, let me play bishop c3. So people are joining. This is just a game to warm up. So nothing seriously special. This move. Okay, threatening my rook. What can I do? I have... do I have rook d7, queen c6, let's say? No, it doesn't make much sense. If I do this, it's f6. Yeah, I can do this. Right. Queen d7, queen c4. Okay, knight s6 first. This move I take. Okay, let me take. No, then e5 should be played, of course. And I cannot capture it. It's a pity. No, e5 wasn't played. Okay, prophylaxis. Let's exchange the queens. Okay, let's do like that. Okay, pin. King f7 actually. Okay, king f7. Let me do this. So looks like he is tied down to this pawn. What can I do to improve? Is probably just this. Actually, b3 c4 is a good idea too. b3 c4. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Then let me attack it. Now let me pin it in a different way. b3. I could play c4 right away, but I didn't want the bishop to escape to a4. Because in my opinion, this is what my opponent has to play right now. g5. Okay, so take c4. If he takes, I take. Okay, so he escapes somehow. Take here. Take. Okay, fine. So this. Take. and promote. There is nothing that can stop me from promotion now. Okay, thank you for the game. Well, it wasn't so difficult, but at least this allowed me to warm up. Okay, guys. So let's do the class that we prepared for today. So let me share the screen. So today we are going to talk about the beauty of chess, but let's warm up. Let's warm up with the homework, and I've got only one answer from Paul. Yeah, I have it here. Okay. So if you remember, last time I told you that there are these two positions that we need to discuss. This is a homework. So, well, that was a homework. So how to play after bishop c4, actually. But let's first talk about the game that Kasparov played against Vasily Smyslov. No. Okay, people are joining. Perfect. So the game that Kasparov was played against Vasily Smyslov, just for you to remind, last webinar was devoted to the how to play against weaknesses. So I was teaching you how to create weaknesses and take advantage of them, and that was a homework. So according to what Paul wrote in his message, the idea is to play c5. So Paul, I absolutely agree with you. Unfortunately, you and John also suggested c5. So yeah, unfortunately, Paul is not at the class at the moment, according to what I see. But anyway, so c5 was good. Then what? What's the idea of this move? So first of all, we fix here and we eliminate the rook activity. So by doing bishop d6, well, they can do the same thing with bishop d5, but we do not operate through the d file. It's black who is going to operate through the d file. By bringing the bishop here, we also take a lot of squares from the enemy rook and king. So what did happen? Rook e8, bishop e8. It's not a serious mistake. So while exchanging the rooks is fine, bishop goes to f7, rook b1, and black decided to do the same thing. Well, their knight is useless, but maybe it could make sense to bring the knight and somehow try to attack these two. But look, right now it's not possible because rook b8 leads to a check, after which black has to give up the bishop. So bishop d5, rook b8, king f7. Now this, king e6. And what would you play in this position? Uh-huh. Well, anybody else wants to suggest anything? Okay, so rook e8. Well, rook e8, I don't think makes much sense because the king escapes. And with g3 move, we stop the king because if the king goes to f5, it's bishop h3 gaining the rook. It was actually possible in this exact position to continue with bishop a6 and bishop c8 right away. However, Gary played g3 first with the same idea. I actually don't think there was a way to save the game. Well, maybe rook f7. But rook f7 means that after this move, at least after this move, f5 is a must. And here, take, king takes, bishop f5, which is definitely a winning position. The bishop pair and extra pawn, so it's technically winning. The game continued with g6, so he prepares for bishop h3 and f5, but now Gary played this move. And what black finally had to do? Well, they expect to lose the exchange with bishop c8 because this rook can be attacked with the rook on with the white rook too. That's why black decided to get rid to sacrifice their rook right away. So they played rook takes d6 to capture at least one more pawn. And after that, the game is again technically winning. It's extra exchange, and Gary just realized his advantage. So rook e8 check. Then there is a pin. The king has to go back because if he decides to advance the pawn further, I think what would happen? Well, this knight b6. No, well, I think still this, and after knight b6, just take, and king f1. So the king stops the pawn, and yeah, and there is a pin. So there is not much that black can do in this position. So instead, they played king e5 back, f4, king e4, bishop goes to f1 to deliver a skewer, bishop goes there, king f2, knight b2, and then black resigned because they realized that they cannot advance the pawn further. For example, if they, well, I don't know, so it's white to move. Actually, what white can do? Well, at least rook b8. And after c4 move, we can just take on c4 because if bishop takes, there is a knight hanging behind, and if knight takes, rook takes here, and because the king is on f2, there is no fork that could potentially save the black's position. Okay, fine. So okay, once again, so c5 was the key move to fix the weakness on c6 and let the bishop occupy d6. So by playing c5, we made the d6 square weak in the enemy position. Now let's take a look at the second puzzle, well, not a puzzle, game fragment that I provided you. Well, guys, so I see there is an answer by Paul. He sent an email to me, but anybody else want to suggest anything in this position? So what do you think white should do? Okay, thanks to John. Anybody else? Anything that comes to your mind? So can you identify a weak square in this position and decide how do you take advantage of this weakness? Okay, looks like not. Well, guys, definitely with such a pawn structure, d5 is weak. Our task is to get the control over the square and bring one of our pieces, because almost any piece placed on d5 provides you with advantage. Because, well, ideally there should be a knight. So that's why here white follows with bishop takes c4, queen takes c4. So now there is no bishop that defends on d5. And the next thing is that knight. So we need to liquidate the knight by doing bishop g5. So knight e4 doesn't work. Well, it's just a blunder. Oh, several times blunder. So rook f8, and let's liquidate this knight even at the cost of the bishop. Why? Well, because look, this knight in the center looks really powerful. So it attacks a lot of squares into the enemy camp and also some squares into our own camp. Well, maybe not f4 because there is a pawn. So which tells us that, well, this is a super knight, and this knight cannot be attacked by the bishop. So the key idea, which I already mentioned on our previous webinar, is that you see there is a weak square into the enemy camp. You can take advantage of it by locating your piece on that square, and your piece becomes better. So here, having the knight means that you attack a lot of squares into the enemy territory, which restricts enemy maneuvers. Also, you're always threatening to take on f6, which ruins their pawn structure and potentially allows you to initiate the attack. So, and then white was able to realize this attack by doing well, first prophylaxis, and then he was able to initiate a kingside attack by doing a rook lift. So many of you may wonder why not queen c2 here. Well, queen c2 doesn't work. First of all, knight f6 is not so pleasant for black, but also rook f2 with the idea of rook c1 and the fork on c7. Instead of a fork, there is also rook c7 move, actually. Queen goes there, then b3, queen b5, and queen c1. So it looks like black is in the zugzwang. They can hardly find a good move in this position. And knight c7 is still a threat. But if you don't want to do anything like that, just fork and gain the exchange. So fine. The key idea was to exchange the bishops, then exchange the bishop for the knight, and occupy d5 with the knight. That was the best way to take advantage of that weakness. Okay, today we are going to talk about the beauty of chess and how do you understand it, guys. So I was, before the webinar, I was discussing this topic with my friend who is a FIDE master too. He was a candidate master, now he's a FIDE master. So, and he told me that he actually thinks that the beauty, I mean, the beautiful combinations appear when there are drawbacks in the enemy position. So, what do you think? Is it right? This is what he thinks. So he's a FIDE master again. Uh, well, he actually said if there are any defects in the enemy position, then a beautiful combination may appear. So how do you understand the beauty of chess? So anything, do you agree with this? Because I agree only partially. So in my opinion, not only drawbacks in the enemy position should exist, but your own pieces should be located harmonically. They should be able to coordinate each other. Because if you both players have drawbacks in their position, they can hardly take advantage and create anything. Yeah, so here John suggests putting your pieces in the most active and useful positions, which actually means that like a kind of a harmony or a coordination among pieces. That's right. So I think something similar already happened in this game. So the game between Rashid Najmedinov and Yuri Katkov. So Rashid Najmedinov was known as a very, well, he was like local Mikhail Tal. So Najmedinov was originally from Tatarstan. This is a part of Russia, and chess players there considered him to be quite similar to Mikhail Tal. So here, let's talk about the pieces. Well, the knight in the center, however, it can be chased away. The bishop is attacking the pawn, which is protected. So probably it doesn't make sense to keep the bishop there, but actually the bishop plays a very important role. So this bishop is attacking the pawn, which is protected many times, and the sacrifice here doesn't work. Two rooks are located perfectly well, and the queen is also well placed. It can join the attack here or maybe here, maybe even take on d7, b7, I mean. Many of you, including Joanna, suggest to play bishop c4, right? With the idea of doing discovered attack like knight c7, knight b6, knight e7, knight f6. I think only these two works, knight b6 or knight c7. So king h8, for example, and then what? Well, you can definitely enter the enemy camp, but how do you capitalize on it? Not clear. So you can instead enter the enemy camp right away, but again, it's not clear of how you can capitalize on it. If they play this move, which breaks the connection among these two pieces, then rook takes, bishop takes, and then bishop c4, because if king h8 right now, there is rook e5. However, you only gain a pawn. No, it's still a winning position. I agree. So it's still a winning position because if rook b8, you enter the enemy camp. And now you're threatening to take on e5. And if they try to defend, well, they also need to defend g8 because queen g8 is a threat. So they probably play this move, but this is just a blunder because of queen d8. So actually, with this combination, you would be winning. So rook e7 does make sense. Okay. Anybody wants to suggest anything else here? No, looks like not. Okay. Okay. Queen g3 by Joanna. Thank you. Yeah, but what's the purpose of queen g3? F4 is not playable, of course. C6 can be playable, but then knight f4 and knight a6. Well, actually, c6 deserves attention. Well, actually, knight e7, and you can take on d6 with the queen at least. Well, yeah, so I don't think c6 makes any sense. I think they would continue with bishop e5, which is a bit annoying, but probably you can just take with your rook again, and after that move, continue with this. They move the king to there, and you can always gain the exchange by doing this move. Maybe you first do this, actually. Well, it's playable. So what Rashid Najmedinov did in this game? He wanted to coordinate all of his pieces. So, well, you remember we mentioned that both bishops are attacking the pawns which are protected. So he decided that by taking on c7, the pawn on d6 becomes weaker. And after that, he can bring the queen to the game, deliver a check, and makes the d6 pawn vulnerable, which would allow him to, which actually allowed him to gain the exchange after bishop d6, which is a double attack. At least. But he also had something else in mind. So he did sacrifice, the pawn became weaker. Now he delivered the check. King goes back. So doing rook f7 doesn't look logical here. After this move, for example, it can be, I don't know what is better. So I'm debating between bishop d6 and rook e8. Let's say bishop d6, queen c6, rook e8 check. Then they block, let's say, with the knight. And in this position, we can just continue with bishop c4. Because how do they defend? So, for example, the queens are exchanged, bishop e6. Well, bishop e6 is actually a nice suggestion. Bishop e6 is played, white is still winning. White just can capture with this. And then everything is still pinned. So, and if this move is just a rook hanging, so yes, it's a completely winning position. Maybe they can defend with the queen, but then we can bring the second rook or even this rook back. So rook f7 doesn't work. King goes to h8, rook e8. So he doesn't take on d6 in this position. But taking on d6 is definitely possible. However, after queen c6, it looks like the queen should be exchanged. So maybe this take, and then, well, what, knight takes or bishop takes? No, let's say knight takes. And after rook e8, it's bishop b7. Actually, bishop b7 is a blunder, right? And the bishop is trapped. Okay, so maybe not right away, maybe c5 first and then bishop b7. Okay, so rook e8 was played instead. Knight goes to f6, rook f8, bishop f8, and so remember about these bishops. All pieces should be involved. So bishop b2, he's creating a pin. How to defend? Well, queen g7 leads to rook e8. And then it's this, threatening with take, take, and queen g8 mate. So that's why bishop e6 right away, but then it's bishop f6, queen f6, and rook e6. So this is a technically winning position, mainly because of this idea. So bishop g7 is the most logical move. Now, well, what would you suggest here? So guys, what comes to your mind? So it looks like the queen is hanging because the knight is no longer pinned. We can take then this, then we can deliver a check, the king escapes, we can deliver another check, but the king escapes to h6, after which I don't see how we can continue the attack. Yeah, this is what John suggests. So this, then how? Rook g8, king h6. Well, maybe we should somehow bring the queen, but again, it's not clear how. Well, let's say this doesn't lead to a checkmate, so at least they can play what? It's hard to make a move, but I'll try. So maybe d5, sacrificing the pawn, because now the queen starts working, and if this, it's f4. So bishop f6 doesn't look good. Anything else? Okay, there is something else. There is this move, which makes the queen poisoned, right? So if they take our queen, rook e8 is a mate. That's why they need to cover g7, because it's bishop f6 and queen g8. White is threatening with this. So bishop d7, they bring the rook. Now bishop f6, because there is no mate anymore. So bishop takes, and queen f7 threatening to take the bishop. So here, if just the bishop goes back, you bring the rook and the game is over. You're threatening to take here as well as to take here. And they cannot defend anything, because if this, queen takes g8. So queen d8 was played. Now, your turn. What would you do? So, well, maybe you're not so familiar who Rashid Nejmedinov was, but, well, imagine that you are playing like Mikhail Tal. What would you play? Okay, that's right, guys. Thank you. Well, you can also send me the answer by private message. This is how others won't see it, and would have more time to think and consider. Maybe they find something else, and we can discuss more options. But it's definitely rook e8 this time. If queen takes, queen f6 is a mate. If bishop takes, then the queen no longer protects the f8 square. That's why queen f8 is a mate. So this is how the game ended. So look again at this combination which started with knight c7. It was a long variation which led to a decisive attack. And it was impossible to parry this attack. Maybe black could play somewhere better, but their position would be losing anyway. Look at how beautifully the white pieces are located. They all are doing something. So all pieces are doing certain things. Okay, fine. So let's continue with the next example. Oh, the next example is from the game by Bobby Fischer. So what do you think about the position? By the first glance, it doesn't look so pleasant for white. So white has a bishop pair, but e4 was played. The queens are about to be exchanged. The bishop has to move, and if the queens are exchanged and the bishop moves, let's say here, there is knight c2 at the very end of the line, and well, it seems that it's more favorable for black, or at least equal. Well, not if you are Bobby Fischer. So what do you think? What Bobby Fischer could do in this position? What did he play? I want you to guess. Well, I want you to think and try to decide what you should do to make your pieces active. And also, how do you take advantage of your piece's activity? Maybe there is something that helps you to bring this bishop to the game because it's not doing anything. This bishop is under attack. So if we decide to sacrifice it, then how? If not, then how to keep it alive and not blunder the pawn on c2. Okay, so yeah, guys, I'm waiting for your suggestions. There are two answers I see. Perfect. Anybody else? And while you are trying to think, let me explain a little about the beauty of chess. So, what can be considered a beautiful chess game? Well, according to what I understand, people value such games and consider them to be beautiful if there are complicated combinations with many pieces involved or with a deep analysis. For example, today I'm going to show you the game where Garry Kasparov won because of a deep analysis. Together with deep analysis and all pieces coordination, there can be sacrifices, some quiet moves which are not seen by naked eye. Uh, Also, there can be a zugzwang. So, but the key is the coordination among these pieces. Even if it's a tricky maneuver, the game can be considered. Did you know actually that in some tournaments there is a prize for the most beautiful game or for the most beautiful combination? Unfortunately, I never received such a prize. Some of my games were beautiful, but I would prefer to play more effectively. So, I'm going to show you where I, instead of playing logical chess, decided to initiate a beautiful combination and how I was punished after that. Okay, so John lost all hope against a master and found a reserve that saved the position starting with pawns. Okay, now let's talk about your answers. So John, bishop c3. Bishop c3 is one of the options. Well, bishop c3, the queen is pinned. This move does make sense. So what do I expect black to play? Well, probably queen g3. Then rook g3 or h takes g3 is a must. So probably this move, attacking on g6. Then knight f5 with a temper. And if you take there, I take there. And your f7 isn't so effective. So maybe you do this, but then I play d4. Okay, bishop b4, knight takes g3, and it seems that black is better in this situation. So bishop c3 doesn't work so well. The next answer is bishop a6 followed by rook b1. Well, I don't understand it because at least queens are exchanged, and then I just take it. So it doesn't make much sense. Bishop a5, interesting, but again, the queens are exchanged. So let's say rook takes, then I take here. After this move, I have knight e2, knight g3 with a check. So maybe it could make sense to capture with the pawn instead. But then I still have this. Bishop takes there. And, well, knight c2 is interesting, but I think rook d8 is just enough because I'm still threatening with knight c2. So rook d3, knight c2. And two pieces are stronger than a rook. So it doesn't work. What else? Okay, and there are two correct suggestions. by Christina and Mike. Oh, wow. So somehow Mike deleted his answer. Okay, the moves are rook e4. How does it work? Well, obviously, they cannot take the rook because of this. That's why they have to exchange the queens first, right? Right. And if you think that we should take, you are mistaken. This is how we lose a rook. Instead, we should take on d4 and look at this queen. The queen is trapped. The only squares the queen has are located on this diagonal, which means that at the very next move, we can create a pin and take advantage of the queen and king being on the same diagonal. So what Black tried to do, and I think that was actually the best option, was queen g4, trying to exchange the rook, trying to get at least the rook for that queen. So white takes, right? And white is down the exchange. But now, after this move, the pawn on f6 becomes more dangerous. And, well, bishop h6 can be played at a certain moment. So rook goes there, bishop h7. If this move, it's just this, and this. So white gains the exchange back, and with 3 pawns on the flank, it's completely winning. 2 extra, but 3 connected on the flank, it should be definitely winning. What's then in the game? It was rook h8, bishop goes to d3, and the bishop is stronger than the rook. So they are trying to do this. It's f7. They do this. And what would you play in this position? How do we save the pawn on f7, or what should we do with this pawn? So, because if we just play bishop to g6, well, bishop g6 is actually playable. Maybe they will play bishop e6. No, they won't. So bishop g6 is playable, but there is a better move that provides whites with a decisive advantage and makes the position obviously winning. What else you guys should know about beautiful chess? So if you want to make a piece of art, it makes sense for you to play a certain opening where the probability of tactics or some combinations is much higher. For example, it can be open Sicilian positions, including Can Sicilian. Well, it can be King's Indian, for example, too. Also, well, King's Gambit, why not? But King's Gambit is not a sound opening. So if your opponent plays properly, he is able to equalize. However, if you're a club player, you can keep doing it. Also, I would recommend Evans Gambit. I would definitely recommend Evans Gambit. I even have a course about Evans Gambit on TheChessWorld.com. I'll show you later. So let's continue with the analysis here. So f8, yes, distracting the rook on h8. How can we distract the rook on h8? Because even, well, we can do this, but they take on f7. f8, and then bishop b4. And we are attacking both rooks simultaneously. So they played this, and the rest of the game is not important for us. It's a winning position, one extra pawn with the bishops of the same color, so it's technically winning and not such a big problem for Bobby Fischer. Well, of course, he played f3 and activated his king after that. But this is not so important for us. The most important thing for us was to notice that we can play rook a4, and after queen g3, we don't need to take the enemy queen immediately. Instead, we can take the knight and trap the queen later. This is the beauty. This is so tricky. Okay, fine. Now a minute for a self-promotion. You remember I was talking about Evans Gambit course. So this is the one. Yeah, this Evans Gambit course. So if you want to play beautiful chess, it makes sense for you to learn how to play Evans Gambit. So this course, well, it costs $40, but if you use my coupon code, which is Victor60, you can save up to 60%. So I'll show you. So here, check out. And then, oh yeah, have a coupon, enter your code here. So it's Victor60. And then you get it just for $16. I'm going to send you the link here in the chat. I play Evans Gambit myself, not in every game, but when I think that my opponents are not prepared against it, and especially in blitz games. So this is the link, and the coupon code is Victor60. Also, if you want to support me and support my webinars, there is a link that you can use to donate. So it works easily. You click donate. Then here you choose the amount that you want to donate, for example, $10, and then you can directly send it by PayPal. So here they ask you to log into your PayPal account, and the money is automatically delivered to my account, to my PayPal account, I mean. So if you like my webinars, if you want them to be more, if you want me to conduct them more often, well, it would be great if you can donate, if you have such an opportunities. Otherwise, the webinar is, of course, free for everyone. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue with our topic. And now you remember I told you I want to show you something where I decided to play beautifully instead of playing effectively. So my game against international master Zdenka Plenkovic, he got the first place in that tournament, and I was about to defeat him, but didn't. So Godiva variation, I played it quite well. So this. So I definitely have advantage in this position. And even the fact that my pawns are triple doesn't make my advantage less. So knight b4, rook c1, rook c8, castle. So there is a problem with this. So he has to hide his queen, but because of no development, I'm opening the position. So he doesn't want me to take on e6. He will plays e5, after which I play f6. G takes, bishop f8, so queen g4, and he does rook c6. I, of course, play this move, knight d5. My opponent plays bishop c8, and now I have to move my queen. So, guys, your suggestions. What would you do if you were white? I can give you a hint. So white has strong advantage in this position. If you ask the engine, for example, the engine says it's about +4, which means absolutely winning. No, well, not for me. I wasn't able to realize this advantage. Anyway, Okay, thanks for John. Well, you should be, well, well, you should, yeah. John, you played the move that I played. Please think about something else. Okay, so there is a question on YouTube where I'm from. Yeah, well, guys, if you join my webinar for the first time, I'm a FIDE master. My current rating is 2285, so I'm originally from Russia. But for already 1 year, I've been living here in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina. So I've been playing some tournaments here already. I was participating in the national team league here, for example. So I'm streaming it from Argentina, where I'm currently living, and I'm going to live there for several years more at least. Okay, so thanks, Paul. Yeah, okay, guys, I see there are other suggestions. So Paul suggested the same move that I played in the game. Mike suggests rook c6. Interesting. So there is knight e7 by Joanna and knight c7 by Michael. So Michael Nielsen, knight c7. Well, okay. Okay, thank you for your suggestions. Let's start with knight c7, because I don't think this move makes any sense. So knight c7, queen c7, what was the purpose of it? I don't see the reason. Knight e7 is another suggestion. So what's the purpose of this move? If they take, you want to take on c6? Well, okay, but then knight c6. And where is advantage? There is no advantage. What else? Rook c6. Rook c6 is the second option. Rook c6, but again, bishop g4, and they still cover the square, so I don't understand the purpose. Queen g5 is a good move too. Yeah, queen g5 can be played here. I played queen g7 like the majority of you suggested. So what does queen g7 do? Well, so I had a brilliant idea. I thought that this is a queen sacrifice. So he takes, well, I expected, well, he definitely takes on d5 first. If he took on g7, I took here. And this is what I expect. So I'm about to promote a new queen. He has this or that. If he plays rook g8, I have knight f6. The king, well, if the king is 7, I take here, so king goes there. And in this position, I take, and I still have enough time to move the knight back and play g8. So doesn't matter how he plays, but I still promote. That was my original idea. If he plays rook f8 move, I don't remember what I had in mind, but it's still winning. I can play knight f6. He goes to e7, let's say. And then I play bishop g5. Yeah, that was my other plan. And now what? So well, the king has to protect this rook. If he goes somewhere else, well, he cannot go there. Maybe here I take on f8. So, and I'm also about to play knight h7, which does a double attack of the rook on f8. So I can take with the pawn and promote. So that would be really nice combination. But unfortunately, he played this move. If now I take on d5, then I lose the queen with no compensation because I no longer have this knight. I can take on c6 here, but it's not enough. So that's why I played this. Then he takes there. I took here, knight f1, and after bishop f1, I'm up the exchange. I did calculate this position, but what I missed was that after that he has queen e7, and then he invades my king. So looks like white is winning because of extra exchange, but unfortunately not, because my king is weak too. And with queen e3, so I couldn't save my position. So he started doing checks. And then it's just a repetition and the perpetual check. So we agreed to a draw. What I should do instead of doing queen g7? Instead, I should just play queen g3 and keep adding pressure. So, for example, how does he play? If he takes on d5 this time, I can take the rook right away because after that I take with the queen. So if he knight c2, this is what the engine suggests, for example, then queen g7 may work because my knight is still alive and they cannot get rid of it. So queen g3, and I would keep adding pressure to his position. But I played queen g7 and the game unfortunately ended in a draw. Now let's talk about the game that Garry Kasparov played against his opponent, against Anatoly Karpov. Well, now guys, so imagine you are white, so you are Garry Kasparov. Let me check when this game was played. It was 1986 in no, okay. So I don't the game was played in 1986. Okay. So white to move. White has one extra pawn. This pawn may be decisive. May provide white with the decisive advantage, but at the same time may not. And maybe it also makes sense for you to look at the king, which doesn't have many squares. So the knight is well placed, the bishop is really bad, this queen is also well placed, and the rook is active. But black has their queen, which supports almost everything. So what would you do? So maybe the first move is quite obvious for you, but I'm not sure if you understand the whole concept. Okay, Joanna, can you please remind what's your FIDE rating is, if you have it? If not, just chess.com rating. Mhm. No, well, John, thanks, but I asked Joanna Christina about her rating, so okay, so Zamfir, I remember you suggesting really good comments on YouTube on one of my recent webinars. Okay, so looks like, guys, you all suggest knight d7, according to the comments that I see. Knight d7 with the idea of knight f8. Well, you're right. But rook d4, knight f8, well, here, he definitely cannot go to h8, right? Because in such a case, you do this, and then you're threatening with this, or at least you're threatening with this. And the point is that the king cannot move away from the back rank. So that's why instead of doing king h8, king h6 is a must. That was obvious for most of you, and definitely for Garry Kasparov. But how to continue? The king is on h6. So we would, if we would somehow place our queen there, we would definitely take advantage of it. But even if we do it, they still have queen f4 move, which blockades the check and also does a cross check. Okay, so then knight f8, and then exchange the rooks. How to exchange the rooks? With what? Rook b4? Okay, there is also suggestion of f4, but how f4 is possible? What if they just take with the queen? If you do, let's say, this move, trying to move here and maybe chase the rook away, they can do this move. You can play g3, but with queen d2, they exchange the queens, and looks like the black's position is relatively safe after that. Okay, so here Alex and Zamfir suggest rook b4. Well, which is a good move, but I'm not fully sure that you guys understand the purpose of this move. What's the concept? So, for example, rook takes here, pawn takes here, d4. So, and this is where the beauty appears. Look, the queen is about to go to these two squares, which will deliver a check. The knight is blocking the king from escaping. The king is blocked himself. But the point is that we simply have no ideas of how to bring the queen to this diagonal. If we play this move, they at least can do this move. Or maybe something else, actually. No, like this, maybe. Okay, but we can advance, and this is how we distract the queen. If the queen takes, it's a checkmate. Of course, black won't take it. So d3, b6, d2, b7, d1, b8. Okay, looks like black promoted first. But the point is that there are no checks and there is no way to save the game because white is threatening with this. Well, here you may say, why there is no way? There is queen c1, of course. Yes, there is queen c1. And what do you think? How white should continue? Well, f4, f6. They cover g5. Okay, knight g6, queen takes g6. Wait. f4, f6, you cannot play queen c7. It's a blunder. Knight takes g6. Ah, knight e6. Knight e6 is interesting. Yeah, knight e6 makes sense. I agree, but knight e6, what if he takes with his pawn? Because now queen f4 still doesn't work. This move leads to bishop h7, and then you take on g7. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so he cannot take, and this is a threat. So what does he have to do? Maybe just this move. Yeah, this move. What about this move? Ah, okay. So yeah. As for queen f4, f6, queen c7, and if I take, then it's queen g5. But queen g5 again is not a mate. So this, and first of all, this pawn is pinned. But even if it wasn't, and it was possible to take, king takes. No, knight e6 check, but you are pawn down. So f4, f6, this line doesn't work. Well, a knight move maybe works. So knight e6, f takes e6. No, knight e6, king h7, knight g5. Oh, knight g5 works. Nice. Yeah, knight e6 would work. Gary had in mind a better move. It's knight g6, gaining a piece right away. While it's not possible to capture it. I mean, if pawn takes, this is a checkmate in one. If they have something else, it's still queen h8 because the king cannot escape. So he not only gains a piece, but also threatens a checkmate. Maybe that was a possibility to save the game, to not lose, but even this move is losing too. Like that. So queen takes, queen h8, queen h7 is the only move, and then queen g takes g7. This is how a checkmate is delivered. So this queen is pinned. That's why it cannot capture the queen on g7. With this nice combination he had in mind. That's the reason why Anatoly Karpov didn't take this rook, but played rook c4. But even this move didn't help. Pawn takes, rook takes, pawn takes, queen d6, threatening with this. So there is no bishop h7 move. That was the other idea. Why this move? Why not something else? Because otherwise they could play bishop h7, g6, and escape. So, but this is really perfect. However, c3 stops it. Yes, c3 does stop it, but there is this move. Okay, and what then? Well, then they resigned. Why? Because queen e3 is coming, obviously. And if bishop h7, it's just queen takes a3, and this is technically a winning position. So queen f4 check, g3, well, and that's it. So queen f5, for example, check here, and after g5, everything is exchanged. So just the a pawn is promoted. That's why Anatoly Karpov resigned after queen d4 already. There was nothing he could do to save the game. So because of rook b4 and the whole idea based on it here, Gary was able to win. And this is what he had in mind. Rook takes b4 and this checkmate with two queens on the board. Okay, fine. So let's continue. The next...
I have.
Yeah, you have a question?
Oh, you want a drink? Okay.
Okay, let me... If there is no questions, let me mute you. Okay, fine. Let's continue. So the next is this. This is the game that I suggest to play. It's white to move. It looks like the position is materially equal, but the king is out of the place of action. So you guys are going to play it with white pieces against me, and I'm sure you definitely have winning chances. So who wants to play? Let me... Okay, thank you. Okay, let me share the screen again. The whole screen. So we are going to play on chess.com. If you you can tell me your username. So play. Yes, so Zamfir, tell me your username too. Or maybe it is easy if I create a link. So okay, so first of all, it's custom, not standard, but custom position. Then the time control is 15 plus 10. Here I use this. So guys, if you're ready to play, please join the live section of chess.com. So I'm going to play with black pieces. So here, let's say parallax. This. So in white link and play. So in white link for you. So please click on this link. And make sure to make the first move within 30 seconds. And the second move too, I think. Well, the first move is obvious, I agree. Guys, if you have any problems with the link, please let me know. Okay, this move. So what I have to do here is to bring the knight to the game with knight e4. But I cannot move my rook, which is a pity, because then rook f8 mate. Okay, so let me do the same thing. Okay, perfect. The second game starts. So Alex, you can use the link that is in the chat. Here, take on c3. Yeah, we have to do. Why? Why do we start from this position? Maybe I sent the wrong link. Okay, so the rook is attacking me. Yes, Joanna, what's your username? Okay, so I cannot take the pawn because of bishop g7. So let me just do this. Okay. So I'm going to do new game, then yeah, I will answer a little bit later. Just let me start a new one. So 15 plus 10 and this and then this. Oops, no, not this. I'm playing with black pieces against here. So, right. So I challenged you. Please accept. Okay, knight d6 here. It doesn't work. Interesting. Why? Are you in the live section? And if you click on the link, like you did last time, okay, so John is challenged. Please accept my challenge. Yeah, looks like everything works. And the link for you again. No, why we play from here? Okay, finally it works. Rook is 7. Yeah, that's right, rook is 7. Let me bring the... Oh, I can play knight f7 in this position, can I? Oh, no, I cannot, of course. But I can play rook e8 to save. Yeah, let me do rook e8. this. Okay, 94 anyway. Rook g7, king h8. This 94. This. Fine. Knight c4. Or knight b5 maybe. Let's do knight c4. Here. Okay, I can also challenge Alex. Oh, c4. What's the purpose of c4? What if I just take it? Okay, king g7 is a must. f3. Nice. So f3 is a good idea. But there is no checkmate to my king. So what can I do because of that? I can deliver a check here. King goes to h2. Looks like it's not so promising. Knight f2 doesn't really work. So knight d6. Bishop f6. So this is a threat. This is the concept. Okay. If I do e5, what happens? If I do this, rook h7. What else I can do? f4 maybe? No, f4. So this is the idea. This is what is coming. I can play h6, this, rook takes, king f7, rook h6. Okay, what else I can do? f4, g5, h5 also. If e5, it's rook d5. I can take, but it doesn't make sense. For me at least. Okay. Okay, so let me play h5 here. Rook is 6. So, okay, I do. King here. Rook g7 in this position. Rook g7, king goes back. Okay, the challenge to Alex is also sent. King h2. Yes, I sent the challenge to you, Alex. Mhm. F4, rook goes here, then knight goes there. Looks interesting. I can also just play rook e8, actually. Yeah, let me play rook e8 first. h4. Okay, fine. It's a good idea to play such a move. Knight e3. Okay, it's time to activate my rook. Rook c6. So this is not a checkmate, which means I can take on f2. So this pawn is hanging. I can do c3, but then it's f3. Then I can deliver a check. Then I lose my pawn. Okay, so I can do this. Uh-huh. Well, let's do this first. Okay, I can advance to c3, but then f3. Okay, let me just take. King goes there, so there is no mate. Rook b2. King goes there, so okay, I can send another challenge. So, maybe this is not. Maybe you have a different username. Okay, no, I can copy it. No, I cannot find you. Maybe, well, can you please check what username you have? Maybe you are not on a live section of chess.com at the moment. Okay, so here, yeah, I definitely move there. Here, this, okay, fine. Can I save this pawn? Unlikely. Ah, I can push it to c3. Yes. Okay, so probably the king comes to my camp. d5. Yeah, let me attack it. So g5. Well, no, I think I lose after g5. What can I do in here? So knight e2, king g5, knight e3, knight g3, I mean. No, it doesn't make sense. So d4 just. Rook g6. Right, right, right. Then I played this move. So king f6 is coming with king f7. No, I didn't find anything else. Maybe I'm wrong, actually. King 93. Oh, g2 is a weakness, and taking the g2 provides me with some winning chances here. Bishop g5, right. So if I take with my rook, then my knight is always hanging. So I need to take with the knight, but then the king escapes. Okay, we still have to take with the knight. e6, interesting. I didn't expect this move at all. And then g3. Ah, well, this is where I have a fork. 94 is a fork, so I win here. Okay, thank you for the game. This. Bishop g7, king g8 is a must. Okay, now the king goes there. Oh, okay, so what do I have? F4 is interesting. Take, take. Looks like doesn't make much sense. So 91 does make sense. With the idea of doing this. Okay, and this is the other game. So well, e7, king f7, this is my goal. And if king f6, I have knight h5. I'm gonna play knight h5 anyway. Now, if bishop takes d4, I take on e6. And it seems to be okay. But the king can go to h6. However, I don't think it's so helpful. King f4, right, right, right. And with this move, you want to enter my camp. So, and you provoke me to play this move, right? Yeah, but then king e3 and my knight is under attack, which I don't want to. I can try this move, and after this, I take on f3 with my knight. But the concept is that there will be a check delivered first, which chases my king away, and then rook e6. Okay, so it practically means that I have to play this move. So here I can take on e6. I can also play knight h5 move, if knight h5 makes any sense. Yeah, let's play this move. Let me think a little. King h6. This is a blunder, so knight h5. Just bishop d4. Oh, I can then take here, but looks like I'd better take here right away. So rook h5. Yeah, it's very logical. Yeah, looks like there is no mating threat. So I can check this, the king goes there. I can also check here, and the king still goes there. I have some tactics in mind here. Okay, bishop d4. Well, what I expected. Okay, so rook g7 can be played. Well, knight h5, then it can be g4, but g4 isn't a big issue. h6 no longer makes sense. What else? Knight e2 just, but just bishop b2. I think knight h5 makes more sense. So g4, I take it. With knight h5, I can play knight g7. Yeah, okay, let's do it. So here I have a very nice idea, which I think is actually very nice. Maybe it's not a nice idea. It's this. It's f4 move. So if you want to play beautiful chess, you should be looking for tactics. And guys, some updates for you. I am going to release a new course on Chessable regarding how to improve your tactical vision. So regarding tactics, so I think it will be the best course about tactics as I ever seen. It's definitely one of my best courses and definitely the best among tactical courses that I have seen. So let me explain the idea of the pawn sacrifice. Bishop takes. Okay, so g4 was played. Okay, later, I will explain later. So take. Oh, I wanted to play knight g7 move, but looks like I can't. Oh, it's a pity, I missed it. Okay, let me explain the concept of this move. Oh, no, okay. Well, because I have only one square, sacrificing the knight doesn't make much sense, so knight g3. Okay, so this is the key, rook g2. After king takes or king goes to h3, I can capture with the knight and gain a piece. That was the main idea. If the rook was somewhere else, this strategy won't, well, these tactics wouldn't work. But because of the rook on h5, there is a knight fork that parallax blunder it, unfortunately. No. Okay, so king h6. King h6, king h6. But g5 is interesting. So I lose this pawn on h5, on h7, I mean. So there is a nice fork with knight f5, but it doesn't work. So what do I have here? Well, rook h7 isn't coming, but this move is coming, after which king f7 and king h7, which is a bit dangerous. So, well, I can, of course, play this move, but with such a passive defense, I lose on h7. What I can do in this position is g5. Then the king has to take, then I do this, and that will help me to draw the game. Okay, g5. Okay, now it's a fork, and I take on h5. Right. King g6. Well, this is right too. So what do I have in this position? Knight e4 doesn't seem like a good idea, right? So instead, I can play rook g6. Maybe it's not enough to draw the game, but I will try. I'm definitely not playing for a win in this position. f4, f4, so here knight f6 check, and then I can occupy f5 square. So yes, if the king goes there, I think I can just exchange and draw the game. If the king goes there, then it seems that I have to play knight e4. There is no better move. Well, with knight e4, I'm threatening with rook h6. And this is, of course, winning, because my next move is king f5, and then I'll be using zugzwang idea. Okay, Alex, so maybe, well, I don't know why, but I don't see you among players on chess.com. Please, we can do it next time, so you can play the game against me next Sunday. Today is too late. Please send me a private message on chess.com. My username on chess.com is Gertzog. So here I type it here. Send me a private message and add me as a friend also. Okay, this game is over, and now we have only one game left, which is this. So I'm threatening with a checkmate. That's why I think g5 should be played. Or it can be king h5, but then it's a repetition. Can be also a check, but I don't see the purpose of this check. Just king f7. So g5, I take it. I take it with my knight, I think. So I can also offer a draw, for example. So yeah, this move makes sense. I agree. Think I can still, well, not sure if well, yeah, so exchanging the rooks may help, exchanging the something else. Okay, so what can I do in this position? Knight f6 probably. Not sure what for. h5 doesn't make sense. Just this, or even g5. I can try h6, but I don't see the point again. So looks like a zugzwang. If I play this move, king goes there. Rook goes there, I mean. Yeah, h6 makes h6 is a blunder because of this, and then I have no knight f6. Okay, knight f6 for a while. Oh, by the way, those of you who are waiting for homework, let me send you here. Okay, so let's say I continue with, well, king g7 or king f7. Let it be king f7. Then g5. So g5 is coming. Okay, let it be h6 then. Maybe it makes sense for me to relocate pieces like that. Ideally, I want my king on g6, actually. And the rook somewhere on the 6th rank. Okay, so while my opponent is thinking, oh, g5. How does g5 work? I think it doesn't. So knight h7. No, this is a draw. So I take with my rook. And this is a draw. So we don't need to play to the very end. Well, it's not polite to play such a game, so it is a draw, obviously, because it's the edge pawn. So please accept a draw. Because you are just wasting our time. Okay, fine. So let's go back. Let's go back and quickly talk about what you should do. We don't have much time because I have a class in a few minutes. So let me show you what you should be doing. Your idea with rook g7 was definitely correct, but then, well, rook a7. Now what? This is hanging, right? But at the same time, this rook cannot move. So king g8. And f3 as prophylaxis is required to limit this knight. Well, what happened then? So doing something like that doesn't really make much sense. Then, for example, check this. Well, and the knight has no squares to move. If the knight goes there, it's a checkmate with bishop g7. If the knight goes there, it's rook here. If the knight goes to h5, then this knight is trapped. Well, rook f8 is always a threat. That's why it's not, the c3 is not hanging. And after knight h5, I think it's g4. And this leads to, well, okay, take. This leads to a knight trap. So this is how white wins. That's why instead of playing something with the rook, they played knight e8 to save the knight position, because now it's possible. King h2, knight d6, rook g7 check, king goes to the edge, and rook d7 with a temper. The knight cannot stay there forever, so it goes somewhere to b5, for example, to capture these pawns. But it's already too late, because white has a king maneuver which allows white to checkmate in this position. So which king maneuver I'm talking about? Do you see, guys? Okay, maybe not. Let me show you. It's king g3. So, well, it's hard to suggest any move for black. Let's say they take. This is what happened in the game. King f4, knight b5, king f5, and then king f6. Now, after the king goes to f7, there is a checkmate with this move. Now, let me show you. So, for example, knight d4, king f7, bishop g7 is a mating threat. You may say, okay, there is rook g8. There is rook g8, but after rook d8, it's still a checkmate, even if you don't take it. So, but if you take it, it's a checkmate on g7. So, actually, this maneuver with the king, your king g3, king here, king there, and then to f7 wins the game. And there was nothing that black could do. Something similar happened in my game against Christina, but my knight was better placed, because Christina was wasting tempi before doing this king maneuver. That allowed me to relocate my knight. Okay, guys, and you have these two positions as the homework, this fragment from the game of Mikhail Tal, and this, maybe you already know it, the game between Yuri Averbrak and Alexander Kotov. Okay, so if you have any suggestions regarding our topics of our future webinars, you're welcome. So, and I want to remind you that if you want to support me and support to my webinars, you may donate using this link. It's really easy. Just click donate button. There is a pop-up window where you enter the amount, for example, $10. Then you click to the button PayPal, and the money is automatically, after you log into your account, the money is automatically transferred to my account on PayPal. So I appreciate all donations, and especially the ones that you guys did, Michael and Paul. Thank you. So, well, if you have any other suggestions, well, by the way, you can also support me by purchasing this course if you want to play if you want to play beautiful chess and you don't know which opening to start, Evans Gambit is a good suggestion. Also, send me a friend request. So this is my profile, and see you next weekend. Any questions? You can ask by sending an email at tricksofchess@gmail.com. Also, tomorrow I'm going to send the summary about the webinar as well as the recording and the homework to your email. So check it and send me the answers for the homework. We are done for today. Thank you for coming, and see everyone next Sunday.